So first view on this will be quite painful, so I'll just paste it and then we'll comment. So there you go, quite a bit of stuff here. Probably have forgotten stuff. Yeah, but basically we have a lot of different elements. The first one is the first one will be to show and hide. So we'll see if it makes any sense. But this is taking information to show and hide the envelope. So I'm not going to connect it right now because this will be controlled by the selector pitch amp that we have. So normally it's useless. The main domain is useless because it's going to be received here, so I don't need this one either. The presentation rectangle is useless as well because it's used. It's controlled by the outside. I think I may have forgotten something on the line thickness. That's the envelope big, which I'm looking for. It's not there. Oh yeah, line thickness is coming from here. Because we want to be able to change the thickness of the display lines. So if you see, I can change it. It's pretty useful. Depending on your display, you're gonna need to change this thing. So that's the first element, which is pretty useful. This one is normally useless because that's for something else. So this one is interesting. So we have the grid, which can be changed. Both for X and Y. Yeah, I need to activate show grid on X as well. Steps, no. Somewhere. It's not mouse grid. No. Yeah, display grid, horizontal and vertical. Yeah, something weird, line color, grid color, probably made a mistake. Yeah, I think I know what's the matter. Because this is not, the grid is in durations, so it has to be not 1 divided by this value, but my domain, which is the X duration divided. So T, F, and this value will be divided by the number of grids. I think it should work, so to check that, let's change the duration of a kick. So, and 0, it's not bad, it's not good. And yeah, it's not this one, which is actually needed. This one we need to trigger the bang. Yeah, we have no data. I need to do something here, and then yeah. 2, 3, 4, 5. So we see I'm changing the horizontal grid of my values, and vertically Does it change anything? Yeah, I think I have too many because on the underlooper, yeah, 8. So it's going to be 1 divided by, because my amplitude is between 0 and 1. 6, 5, 4. So we have 4 different values, etc. So now I have my grids which are properly shown. And then I have the snap to grid which has to be activated or not. So I just need to connect this here. So let's just switch to edit mode. So if I unsnap and I want to add a point, I can put it where I want. But if I activate the X grid, I'm stuck on precise X coordinate. And if I activate the Y grids, I'm stuck as well on the vertical coordinates. So that's what I wanted to do. Let's put that in place. It's already quite nicely set. So this is useless. Put a panel around that. Border color will be this. Interior color will be off. And the border size will be 1 pixel. With some roundness, around 4. Something like that. I'll get this line width as well. I can just put it here. I got some room. And my display from there. This will be the information which is displayed. Maybe I have to add any elements, but for now it's okay. So this is the amplitude. This is showing me where I am. And now what I've been asked is to be able to tweak one value that has been selected. So I thought about several ways to do so, but mainly we have this thing which is outputting the point number on which I am. So I am on point 12, 10, 8, etc. So I can use that when it's highlighted, but the thing is that as soon as I get out of the point gets deselected. So I need to keep the last one which I hovered. I'm gonna use a gate probably, and if this is different from -1, which means no point selected, then I'm opening the gate to store the value, and the gate has to pass the value, but I need to do that in the proper order. So it's gonna be II, 2 integers. The first one is opening the gate, the second one is passing the value. So normally I should only pass values which are different from -1, so I see the last point which I've edited. 10, 8, yeah, for some reason. Double points probably. Yeah, double points. 8, 6. And now when I have this, I can add controls to change specifically this value. It might be an issue, but the function is accepting a message to change the value. Like so, change XY value of the first point, because so this is how it works. So that's the point number, and this is the X and Y value. So we'll grab as well these values only if the gate is open. So what I want to receive is this. So like so, and I think that's it. So here I'm going to receive the current value of the last point which has been selected. Let's check. Yeah. Good. And now I can use that and to be able to change that value. So I need to use something like this element, and I'm gonna set the value of this element to something. So to probably to this thing. So that's the duration. The second one will be the percentage. So if it's a percentage, let's change how it's displayed. It's a percentage. It's been multiplied by 100, so that's good. And point number is a useful information. Just will only display it. It's not something that will be changed, so I ignore clicks, and I show it as an integer. And where is percent here? Yeah, integer. But now if I want to change the value of a point, I need to recombine this three. So it's this way, because this one is first. So I'm gonna pack 3 values, an integer and 2 floating points. Beware, because this one is a percentage, so I need to multiply by 0.01 again to get back to floating value. And I will send it to my envelope. So now I select a point. Oh, I think I did something wrong. Yeah, changing something, but probably not the right point. Let's select this one. Yeah, it's doing something wrong. 0, yeah, that's a 0. So this is going from 0 to 100. It's a percentage. This is, yeah, this is a bit weirder because it's going from 0 to the maximum length. So let's say 0 to 1000. Yeah, better to do something like that and only send these message when this are changed. definitely not working at the moment. Do I have, yeah, many points. It's pretty nice, but it's not what I want. So I'm able to change the values. So yeah, things are probably a bit more complex than that. I need to add some fail-safe checkings. Yeah, I'm afraid it has gone a bit out of control. Yeah, so what I wanted to do in all this mess that you can see here is add the possibility of tweaking a specific point in that function. And so modifying its y and x coordinates, but not using the mouse, so using external tweaks, like typically these two text boxes, to fine tweak and fine tune that value. The issue with that is double. First one is no matter what I do, I don't want this point, for example, to pass over this one or this one, because it would just be a mess. And the second reason for that is that Live will reorder the points number. If, for example, this point goes here, then this one is 0, 1, 2, 3. If I move this one and put it here, then the order will change. So this one will be 0, 1, 2, and 3. So it makes things even more difficult to edit this specific point. So I've had to add set of fail-safe conditions to make sure that no matter what I do, this point will stay left of this one and right of this one. Some exceptions, because the first point should be able to go lower than the down to 0, and the last one can also move from the previous one to the maximum duration of the function. So all in all, it's been quite difficult. So I'll try to explain a little bit what I do. So what happens is, let's lock the device. If I hover on top of a point, it will, as you know, I'm outputting the values here and the point number there, which is configured in the function. So each time I'm moving inside, it sends out of these blue outlets three things: the duration, so the x coordinate, and the y coordinate of the point, and a number which equals -1 if I'm not hovering on a point, and which will be the number of the point if I'm on a point. So if I, maybe we can just add a message here to better see what's going on. It will probably help a bit. So as you can see, I'm not over a point, so I have this x and y coordinate, which corresponds to the value of my function. But if I go there, you see that, no, it doesn't show the value, though it should. Yeah, for some reason it's stuck outputting banks permanently. It shouldn't. 0, and nothing is going out there. 1, okay. So let's try and clear the function. Still, yeah, I can't actually intercept what's happening here because it's happening too fast. The key thing interesting here is that I'm outputting from this place. I'm receiving the current values, so x, y, and point number if needed, or -1 if I'm not hovering on a point. So what I'm using here is I'm using this point number to trigger some updates on the editor. So if it's different from -1, then I'm actually opening the gate, which is here, and there. So to let pass the values, and I'm then sending that value to know which point I want to edit. So here I'm actually receiving the point number which has been hovered, the last one which has been hovered, and then this gate, which is by default open, will in turn trigger quite a lot of things here to get the values for the next and previous points from the one which has been selected, and which will make sure that whatever I do, I'm not passing through. So it's done it in quite a lot of steps. The first one is open this gate, which is here, because I'm gonna intercept some outputs from here using that gate, but by default I don't want to use it, so it's only when I'm hovering on a point which I want to trigger this and open that gate. So I'm opening this gate. Then I have to, the thing which I want to do here is collect all the values for all the points. This is the key. This is what this part does. It's actually asking for all the x, y coordinates of all the points with their numbers to be able to filter them and make sure that this one is between the previous and the next one. So first I need to open that gate to receive the values. Then I will reset that counter to 0, because 0 is the first number of points. And then I'm gonna clear these collections. So that's the clear message which is sent from here. I'm gonna clear that ZL iter. So ZL is a pretty complex matter, so I won't go too deep into it. It's a group of tools which allow you to process big lists and do a lot of things on them, like sort them, reverse them, split them into. So here I'm using iter, which means iterate, and it will receive any number of values from here, and it will in turn output them by group of 3. So I've just put a print here. So what I'm asking then is, okay, here I'm clearing that iterate, so I'm cleaning the memory of that thing. Then I want to tell it that it's going to receive and output groups of 3, which is a default value, but you have to put it again once you have cleared. So I'm telling it, okay, you're going to output a list of 3 numbers. And then I'm asking to my function to dump the values. But when function dumps the values, it actually doesn't give you the the point numbers. It only gives you the x and y coordinates. So you have to figure out what the numbers out, and this is the reason for this counter. So dumping will just trigger here the dump. The values will be received here because that gate is open now. That's the first thing I did. And I will receive this group of 3, which will be combined with that counter, which is increasing. So I'm receiving here the point number and there the values, so x, y, and curve for the points. And now what I'm doing is joining, so that number with that list to create an item for my collection. So we can see, if I open my collection, you can see that my collection actually contains this list of values. So 0, which is the first point, with x coordinate 73, y coordinate 0.33 and no curve, 1 and 2. So this is my list of points. So this is the first step, and this step is triggered by this bank which I'm receiving here. The next step is reopening that gate. So you see that, you remember that I've closed this gate to make sure I'm not troubled by the dump, so I can reopen this gate next. And then so this gate that was open has sent the value here to tell us which point we are editing. And I'm requesting to my collections to give me the x and the x coordinate of the previous, hence the reason of -1, and the next point in the collection. So here I'm gonna receive the x coordinate. For example, if I'm editing point, let's say I'm editing point 1. So here I'm receiving 0, and here I'm receiving 2. So I'm asking the x coordinate of the point 0, which is 73, if you remember, and point 2, which is 269. So I want to be not exactly on this one, so I'm just adding a little bit of values, so to make sure that my points won't be overriding each other, and it could make problems like reorganizing the points. And I'm not sure how Max would handle it. And then these values are used to clip here the inputs which I'm going to do. So here I'm going to be able to edit this value, but the output of this box will be somehow filtered and constrained to be between the previous point and the next one. So hence the clip minimum, which is 73 here, and the maximum, which is 267. But there are two exceptions, as I told you, because when I'm editing the first point, I don't want to have a lower limit. So the lower limit would be 0 in that case. And this is the reason why I have this expression, which is testing my point number here, that you can see. And if this point is 0, then I won't be using this, but instead I will push out 0. So my minimum value would be 0 in that case. And to the right, if I'm editing the last one, and how do I know the last value of my, the last point number is here, because my counter is outputting the list of values here. So I know that the latest value which I'm receiving here is the value of my last point. So if I'm not on my last point, so if I2, integer 2, which is this input, is different from I3, which is the number of points, then I'm using the F1, which is my constraint here. But if I'm on the last point, so I2 equals to I3, again this and this, then my limit won't be this value, but the overall duration of my kick. How do I get this information? I have to go up to this point, which is the inlet number 3, which actually is receiving, inlet number 3 is actually receiving the duration of my kick. That's the thing we're talking about. So now what I have is something which allows me to edit a point from a text value. Let's have a look at it. So I'm gonna just change the size of this the window, because it's a bit big and it's lagging a bit on my computer. You see that the value doesn't change here, but I need to lock and use the main window to do so. So let's switch to edit value, to edit mode, and lock. So you see that I have my hold on a sec. Doesn't seem to follow. Whatever, I mean, we'll deal with that anyway. So here, this is the 3 items which I've added. So you can recognize here the outputs which give us the value for the point we are moving on. And then if I click here, I see that I have selected point number 2, like here, which is 269 and has this y coordinates. So I can change the coordinate here. I can change this x value up to the previous one, but it won't go lower than that, even though my text box accepts that. And to the right, I can go up to the maximum duration of my kick. So I can go, my kick is 319. So if I go up, I'm stuck at 319 no matter what I do. So you see that we have a small difference between those 2 points to make sure that they don't overlap totally. This is the limit I've put. I can add more points. And then if I hover like this one, the point number 0, let's put it at 0. And let's say I'm starting at 0. Then this point, let's for example do it. If you create a point, it's by default selected because I'm on it. And I'm gonna need maximum values. And let's say it's gonna be after 1 millisecond, which is a good ramp up to avoid clicks. Then the second point should be somewhere, at 25 milliseconds. The third point, let's say, is gonna be at 100 milliseconds, and it's gonna be full amplitude. Then we have this one which I'm gonna remove, if I may so. Remove it by shift clicking on it, and the last point anyway should be at the end of my kick and will be equal to 0, and I can now edit the curves to quite simply tweak the values of my kick. Let's add a point here, for example, and do something like that. And now you see I'm hovering this one, and I can change it a bit. Oh yeah, I may have an issue here because I just noticed that the curve is not kept. So I need to probably grab it as well. It's in my curve, it's in my collection, but it's not actually pushed to the next point. So I may have a look at how to do so, because I don't want to lose the curve when I move the point. This is something I hadn't tested yet. So that's the next thing to do. Yeah, so let's grab the curve of my point. Where do I get this thing? Because it's not outputted from here. Because I just get the X and Y coordinates, and for some reason, when I change the value of a point, I lose that curve, unless I've done something wrong before. Sorry. So I need to extract that curve as well. So I don't want to be too complex. So I'm going to copy that collection again, because I know that that the curve is outputted. And so let's just copy all that. I'm going to do a third collection. It's no big deal because it doesn't really take a lot of memory. And I'm going to ask for the values from here, and so when I'm hovering on a point, I will ask to that collection to output items, and my items, if I open the collection again, you see that we will get $1, which is the number, I think. Yeah, no, that's the X coordinate, $1, $2, and $3. So $3 would be my curve. So let's use $3, and so I can check. So curve, no. Oh yes, yeah, we don't. You're not sure because. There are some curves. Yeah, curves are present, but this one has been removed because I'm probably editing the point. So no matter what I do, if I just hover, -0. Yeah, so I get this thing. Okay, so I actually received the curve, and I'm using this curve. So each time I send that message, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna send the set curve $1, $2 message to to my function to re-add the proper value for the curve in case it exists. So this will need two things. The index number, so I'm going to pack to one integer and one float. So f would be this thing. Yeah, and my point number would be grabbed from here. And normally, so I'm gonna create that message here. So this message will contain, no, if I do that, I will lose the message. So, okay, like that. And yeah, because I don't want to send that message again and again. So this is like so, and this one goes there. It's a bit, sometimes a bit cumbersome to have things trigger when you want it. So I'm creating that set curve message, and I'm setting that set curve message when I send the bang, but I want to do it afterwards. So I'm editing the point and then creating the curve, and not the opposite, like so. This way. So let's have a look if it works. So I have some curves here. Yeah, as you can see, my curve is now kept. If I change the point, yeah, my curve seems to work fine. Yeah, okay, that's good. So take this one, and I can edit it. I move it ahead, and I'm not losing my curve. And the same for the last one, just to make sure. Yeah, good. The curve is okay. One thing I can add is the ability to change the curve from a text box, if it makes sense. Not sure I want to do it right now, because editing the curve is pretty simple. It's just you don't have much choice to do so. But maybe if you have if I'm editing this point, it's very close to zero, then editing the curve might be an annoyance. So maybe I want to provide this thing. So I'm gonna have to intercept this and being able to change it like I've done here. But it would mean that when I'm touching the curve, I want to trigger this and send again the message to update, not to update the point, by the way, only update the curve. So it might be doable. Let's go try. So let's use that. First, I need to receive the value. So this is my curve, so I'm gonna make it. So curve is a floating point, which is between -1 and 1. Let's check that it's properly updated when I'm hovering a point. Yeah, -0.40, -0.80, and then I think it's outputted by default. If I change it, which would be a bit simple for us. Yeah, it's changed. So now my set curve would not be using this directly, but the output of this thing. So by default, it would receive the current curve, but if I change it, it would update. The thing is, I will not trigger the message sending. So I need to trigger something. So like what I've done here, I mean, changing this value actually does that trigger. So let's try to so something like that. I'm trying not to make infinite recursion loops, which happens more often than not. Yeah, I've done something wrong. I'm losing the points. Yeah, goodbye. Well, if I open this, my points are still there, but you see that they have been totally put one on top of each other. So that's probably done something wrong. Let's clean up a tiny bit. Okay, if I change this, then my curve will actually be modified. But for now, if I change this thing, it won't happen. But I don't really see why my points are changing when I'm doing so. Hold on a sec. I may have to this is okay. This is actually not triggered because I'm not touching it. So now let's give it a try. I'm gonna clear my function, create a few points with curves. Okay, I'm gonna edit this thing. So if I edit this thing, my curve is kept, but if I try to change the curve, it doesn't do anything, which is normal because nothing is actually sent. This thing is sent here. That's point number 2, which I'm editing. So yes, it looks fine. So maybe I just need to do this. Not sure. Let's see if this works. Okay, I haven't actually, I don't think I've killed anything. If I do that, it actually doesn't work. Oh yeah, because this thing is a cold. That's the cold inlet. So I need to make it a hot inlet. TBF, like so. Let's give it a try. Yeah. Seems to work. But let's try to select this one. Yeah, you see, I've lost this value because this message is sent probably before I get the new one. So there's some sync issues, which happens a lot if you have a lot of cables starting from the same point, like so. You have no control on which one is triggered in which order. It's totally random. It depends really how Max is implemented. So if you want to make sure that things are happening when you want, then you need to add triggers because we know that triggers happen from right to left, and this is how it works. So let's try and add some trigger here to intercept this thing. So I'm first receiving, I want to first change the point number and maybe then receive the curve for it. Not sure if it's the proper approach. If it doesn't work, maybe we have to do it the opposite way. But still, yeah, let's try. Whatever. So I'm on this point, which has 0.60. 0. If I change it, you see that I'm changing the curve before the point. It's the way it works because the last point would have no curve in that case. Yeah, but it seems to work. Let's try with 0 because it was the one which was causing troubles. Yeah, 0 seems to work, but normally the curve has no impact because 0 has left of 0 has no curve. So if I want to change this curve, I need to select this point. And now I can edit it. Something a bit weird is the fact that Max has negative values for when the next point is up. It seems to behave oppositely. So I would think that having positive curve would have my curve upward. Let's see on this one, for example. On this one, it's something which sounds logical, to me at least. Having a positive curve when I'm on above 0 and negative curve lower than 0, but for points which are on this direction increasing, then it's working the opposite way. That's no big deal. Not sure I want to change it. I mean, I can put a bit of logic here to change the sign, to have something a bit more understandable if needed. We'll see if we do that later on. But for now, I think that we have something which is pretty okay. I need to put that curve somewhere. It's already on my presentation. I just need to put it on the top, and now I need to put some text. So let's see if I enter. So that's the number. My text is probably too big. Let's put it smaller. Let's make it smaller. Let's go. And having the same width as my text box. Here is the. So that's going to be time. I could write X, but actually that's the time. Let's limit a bit. Then it's going to be the amp. And the final one will be the curve. This needs to be the actual size of my whole thing. And I'm going to grab panel here and copy it. Then I will probably switch things and move things over, but I want to do minimum things now. Yeah, maybe changing, so fine-tuning this thing to using control or Windows or command allows to to select a pixel and not be stuck with the magnetic snap of Max. Like so, and a tiny bit below. Something like that. Yeah. The next thing I wanted to do is highlight somehow one of the points to know exactly which one I'm editing. Of course, I know I just hover this one, so I know it's this one I want to change, but somehow it would be nice to have something showing this point while I'm editing it for really comfort. It's a bit complicated. Let's see. How I can do that. I could use something like a shape, a panel, a circular panel, like so, and do some mathematics and send the shape to the current value of this thing. It's possible, a bit cumbersome, because as you can see, meanwhile, I've added this point size setting, which allows to grow up or diminish the size of this selection points. And it's nice, but as you can see, if I'm moving this thing, it actually changes the grid because the point number 0 has to be inside the function. So if I lower the point size, it's actually moving the grid a tiny bit. So if I want to do a circular thing around a point, I need to handle this values. So it's not complicated, because here I'm 2.3, so that's just 1 pixel more probably. But still, it has to be accounted if I want to work as professionally as possible. And then it's going to be quite difficult to handle. So what I need is, when I'm hovering a point, then I'm receiving the X and Y coordinates of this point, and then I know the X, Y, and width and height of my function, so I probably are able to scale this like a function to know where I am and where my circle should be. So for this I need a few things, but I probably won't do that today. And there's another point which I wanted to do for cleanliness, I don't know if it makes sense, reasons. This thing which is sending box inside there, that doesn't make sense. So I'm gonna do it another way. So I'm gonna use all this and this plus this thing, and I'm gonna copy it inside of there. Because there's no reason to change the size of object inside the subpatcher from the outside. I mean, it's not very, from a quality standpoint and process standpoint, it's not clean at all. So instead, what I want to do, so let's just go back here, and for now I'm going to cut only actually this message, which is the one which is annoying us. And where is it? Yeah, it's above there. And I'm gonna, no, sorry. That's the dispatcher. And I'm gonna intercept. So here I'm gonna need a dispatcher message. So this will be sent to, so the pitch envelope is not present. So that's the amp envelope which I want to change. But the amp envelope has to be sized depending on the size of my B-patcher, which is probably a better option. So window get size gives me the values of my probably need to receive this the size of my window here instead. So this is I need this thing, the amp editor and pitch editor values. So I'm going to receive this group here instead. So that's my inlet number 1. It's going to be changed because I've moved it. See, sorry, as you can see now my inlet has changed because I've moved it. That's a weird one. So here I'm receiving a pack containing the sizes of my window and the size of my B-patcher. So I know the width and height of my B-patcher, and this is what I want to use. So I won't be using all this. But I'm gonna unpack the value of my the values which I'm receiving, and from there I will change the size of my amp envelope to follow. So let's give it a try and see if it works. I can close this thing. And this is the one I want to work with. Doesn't seem to follow. Let's check if it's receiving the message. No data. There's no data coming out of here. Let's force it. Yeah. Sometimes you need to force things to happen, but for some reason it's stuck. Yeah, might be a small bug. You see all my bullets seem to happen permanently, so there's probably a problem with Max. It happens. Then you need to close the device and open it again. And most of the time it's gonna correct the problem that you're facing. Okay. You can go up to the point of reloading the device. Like so. Show device in browser, so I don't need to. I remove it and I load it again. Doesn't seem to be better. So actually doesn't want to output it. No data. And this metro is not active. Let's change it and do another one. Oh, I think that my audio is off, so that might explain why I'm not having anything. Let's enable the engine. Yeah, something was wrong with my now messages while we're working fine. So now if I see that my subpatcher is actually following, though it's not the right values. There's probably something here which is wrong, but it's no big deal. I'm gonna edit this and see what I've done wrong. Yeah, minus, I don't see a reason to do so, so -1 is enough, -5 pixels. Let's say that my function will go from 5, which is starting from the left of my patcher, 570, and to the width. Let's align all that. And I want to have 5 pixels to the right as well, so that's going to be -10 here, logically. Okay, closing this thing. Still, it's a bit, it's not happening as I want it to do. Oh, there's some. So okay, now this is my pitch editor. Oh yeah, my pitch editor has some margin to the right as well. It shouldn't be that wide. So 101.5 to the right. I don't need to have all this margin. No, I don't have any margin here. Sorry. Because this is this is the X. Yeah, so that's the margin to the left from my pitch editor or amp editor. That's the margin on the top, and to the right here I have the width of my window. So they have no margin to the right and no margin on the top. So my B patcher normally here has the is receiving on my window, sorry, this thing is receiving the proper values. But so that's my function, which is wrongly calculated. Yeah, this is width and height. This is width and height, so I don't need to do that again. And I can use them directly. Like so. Yeah, that's better. So I still have some margin here, which I can explain now. I have just no margin to the right, which is what I want. And I have some margin on the bottom, which comes from this minus 100 here. So I have 70 on the top, and I've added 50, which doesn't make sense. So let's say 75. So I just have 5 pixels on the bottom of my functions. Yeah, all this is like so. Better. Good.